Greetings, BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business, and welcome to Excel Chapter 3. We're going to explore the grader with our goal of making a perfect score. We have another goal in this chapter because this chapter explores the visualization objects that Excel offers. And I describe these as objects because they do kind of float above the spreadsheet that you've been working with. So now we're going to use the tools that are built into Excel to very quickly turn a table of data into something that we can see rise and fall, or we can see proportions, or we can make comparisons, or we can see trends in our data. And these things are really powerful business tools. Now, as we go through this, you may feel that it's a lot. The selection of items is very specific. Remember that what is selected will be affected. So selecting items is going to be challenging in some cases with Excel using, as we format charts. And you're also going to find that there are a lot of settings that you can control. Makes Excel very, very powerful. If you are fairly new to Excel, you may also find it a little bit overwhelming, and I totally get that. If this is not something you do frequently, these charts and graphs, it can be easy to get caught up and say, I will never remember this, and so I'm never going to do it. And please avoid that attitude and instead embrace this with a real positive mindset, with this mindset. Now that I know that it's possible, and I have a general idea of how the settings work, I can always return to this later when I need it. There is a lot of science involved in a thought process that says if you don't know that an option exists, then it is not an option. If you do not think that you can do something, you absolutely cannot do it. But if you are made aware of it, and if you know that it's an option, then it is something that you can return to and strengthen. So especially if you're new into Excel and you've conquered Chapter 1 and you've conquered Chapter 2, if this seems very different and if it seems like a lot of settings, just remember you are not required to memorize these. You are just asked to learn, and we're going to learn together. And I say that because you may find that I make some mistakes. This level of detailed charts and graphs is not necessarily something I do every day. And so as I look at our instructions for this Chapter 3 grader, I'm telling you there are 3 pages, and so it's a lot, but we're going to work through it together, and I'm here with you. Okay, so we're going to learn together, folks. Before we begin, I did want to just mention a couple things. Oh, I see that my arrow, this arrow is in the wrong place. Let me move it. That kind of bothers me. See, we're already learning. I'm already making mistakes. The first thing I want to emphasize is that we need to always start at the beginning. So as you approach these assignments, what I would really like you to do is to begin with the quiz, and then do the simulator, and then move to the grader. And there's a reason for that. The quiz is an opportunity for you to go through the book. Remember your ebook, and you can kind of search through it, but it's also very easy to navigate when you need to know the answer to questions. So, for example, I've actually already got your ebook pulled up over here, and I have a link to that in your content area for under my IT lab. So hopefully you're already familiar with the first part, which is you click on these 3 bars, and then you can scroll up and down. Excuse me, and you're going to find, right now we're in Chapter 3, and that's on charts. And then I would close this panel, and as I look on this main page, you might have been shocked at first to say, where are the other pages? Right? And of course I can page through. But here's the great thing. When I look at these learning objectives, let me just kind of look through some of this. I have links where I can go immediately to what I'm looking for. So if I am looking for something like, let me go a little bit further. I'm looking for something like, I don't know, formatting grid lines, and I see that it's in Objective 4. Well, then I can just click on Objective 4, and I can go to that section of the book and read just that part that is of interest to me. So I can really focus on that. Once I've read about grid lines, and I think it's down towards the bottom, then I can close this. Okay, but I just want to show you that it's just a page or two full. I mean, you've got pictures in there, right? Now, within this, notice that it says, okay, so here I'm adding and formatting axis titles. And one thing that it's telling me here is that if I don't understand how to do this, that I can look at the hands-on exercises, and very specifically step 2 of those hands-on exercises, and they'll show me how to do it in a video. So the textbook is really important in this type of thing. I'm going to close this textbook, that page, and I'm going to go back. This is our main textbook, and remember we just looked at Objective 4. And do you see how below Objective 4 it says hands-on exercise? And this is hands-on exercise number 2, the one that it was referring to. And if I click this link, and I just want to go through this quickly so that you have these resources. It'll open this page, hands-on exercises. It even mentions the simulator training because it means that I've covered this in the simulator as well. But here is the video, and I can go through the video, and you can see in this case it's 10 minutes. Sometimes they're 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you can fast forward to the part of the video that you want, but it will show me, like, see, oops, I'm sorry, I should have. It'll show me how to perform certain tasks so that I can see it if I need to see it. Okay? I'm just going to stop that. And then, of course, there's the pictures and the step-by-step. Remember, it said step 2. There's A, B, C, D. Here's step 2. So they're very specifically directing me so that I can get help. So use these tools. That book, this is an amazing digital book that is much more powerful than the printed text because you can go so immediately to the pieces and parts that you need to see. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. I'm going to leave this open. We might have to come back to the book. Let me go back to my slides. Okay, but you're always going to start at the beginning with the quiz. The quiz is going to drag you through the book because it's going to ask you questions. What do you click on? How do you do this? And that gives you a chance to be exposed to the material. Next, you're going to do the simulator. And when you go into the simulator, one of the things that I would like to emphasize is the learning aids. When you'll see the task over here, and then you'll see learning aids. And what a lot of students find beneficial is the practice. Now, as I went through the practice for this particular chapter, it was helpful, and I learned a lot in terms of click here, click there. Remember, this is a new version of Microsoft Office, so things are a little bit different. There are certain settings that are a little bit different. So, I did learn, but I found it sometimes difficult to see what I was being told to do. It was in such a small part of the screen. So I periodically found it helpful to go to watch video. And my point here is use the learning tool that works best for you. But you may find that if you're feeling a little frustrated or that you don't understand, that instead of using only practice, which I love, that you may want to try the video instead. Okay, you may want to try read instructions. You have 3 different choices here, so just be aware of that. And then, of course, last but least, then you're going to, after you've learned from the quiz and you've learned from the simulator, you're going to apply those skills to the grader. Now, you're not unsupported. You're going to have this video that I'm doing for you. You can also go back to the simulator and look at tasks, and you can go back to the quiz. You can go back to the book. Right? Go back to the book and look for the information that you need. All right, the most important tip that I can give you is the 3 R's. This is about reading, referencing, and revisiting your book. You might want to read some of it. Don't get caught up and bogged down in reading because a lot of this is how to, okay? You may have to return and reference it. And even after you reference, as I showed you how to go very specifically to a piece of the book, that's what I mean by reference, you might have to keep revisiting because sometimes we forget. And there's a lot of information here. So returning and revisiting it is no problem. Use that book. Always remember, again, the easy navigate tools in your book where you can click on those links, that your book has a search feature, that magnifying glass in the upper right hand corner, and those hands-on videos. And so a lot of tools here. And if you do that, I think you can do your best and earn those 100%. It's about the learning. With the grader project, remember I only require you to score a 70%. Okay, so what I'm asking is don't make an F and don't make a D. I think every student in this class is capable of making a 70% and or above. And when you do, I want you to really focus on the learning. It will not hurt you to go higher. You might learn something that a future employer wants because these are great skills to have. How impressive are you if you can take a big blob of data that people are looking through these reports and their eyes are getting tired as they're scanning, printed documents in their screen, and you say, well, I can put that into a graph for you very quickly. And you can, let me go back to these are just some samples. You can very quickly see that our best year was 1999. Look how high it is. You can very clearly see that client A is 44% of our business. Well, wouldn't that be impressive? So that's, you can do this. It's going to take a little bit of doing. So let's get started. I have already taken the luxury of downloading the files, and whenever I look at the files on my computer, which I have organized into its own folder, an Excel 3 folder, I notice that they have provided me with a picture and of course with instructions. Now I also see an extra file here, and you may only see slice. On my computer, I've changed a setting so that I can see the extension, okay? And this extension says THMX, and that is kind of short for theme. But if I just hover my mouse over it, do you see the tooltip that says Microsoft Office theme? So a theme is a group of format settings, right? So it looks like there's a very specific theme for our company that we may want to use. Now I have already opened the picture. Oops, I'm sorry, that's not the picture. Here's the picture. I have already opened the picture that they sent to me. And this is with the theme. This is the finished product, so this is everything. And it's nice to know that in the end, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, good to know. I'm going to close that because it's just kind of a reference, and I can open it anytime and go back. And I have already opened the instructions. Now you'll notice there's a lot of steps. 3 pages. I said 3 pages. Let me not exaggerate. It's 2 and a little bit. 2 and a little bit. And we're just going to go through these instructions one at a time. We're going to breathe, breathe, breathe deeply, one at a time. That's all you can do, folks. You do it one at a time. All right, let's get in here and let's work on this. So the first thing it says I need to do, of course, is open up my Excel spreadsheet. So let's do that. And I'm being my pretend student, Betty Baker, so that's why it says Baker on there. I'm going to enable editing. All right, and let's go to our instructions. Now, I do have these instructions printed. I find that helps me because I forget as I'm going back and forth between the spreadsheet. My memory is very short, so I need to be able to go back and forth. And this first instruction says you want to create a clustered column chart to depict the passenger counts at the 6 airports over several years. They even tell me how. They say use quick analysis to create the clustered column chart for the range A4 through L10, and then we're going to cut and paste the chart to a very specific cell. Okay. Well, let's start off. This is the data that I'm going to act upon. And whenever I'm creating charts and graphs, selecting the data is key. That's always our initial step, is selecting that data. So let's do that. I'm going to go over here to Excel. And it does kind of make sense here. They said to us A4, so let me find A4. Now, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to try to do it consistently throughout this video, which is instead of dragging, right? Because dragging, there's nothing wrong with pressing and dragging my mouse. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's hard to be precise if we have a lot of data. The screen begins to scroll on us and it jumps around and we lose track of where we are. And remember, there's a lot of precision involved here. So I'm going to click on cell A4. I'm going to hold my Shift key down. And I'm going to, if you can locate on your keyboard the arrow keys, there's an up and down and left and right arrow. And if you can find those, press and hold your Shift key down. Now, as long as you're holding the Shift key down, nothing's going to happen. But as soon as you keep that key held down, keep it held down, and look at, as I'm pressing an arrow key, down arrow, right arrow, left arrow. Do you see what it's doing? The Shift key, in combination with the arrow keys, is a selecting tool. If I have already selected by moving to the right, then when I move to the left, I am unselecting. I'm deselecting because I'm moving, I'm moving off of that. I can go down and select arrow down. I still have the Shift key held down. Or I can arrow back up. If I were to keep arrowing up, then it starts selecting in the other direction. All this is using the Shift key in combination with the arrows to select. So let's do that to complete the task. I'm going to click in cell A4, and they told me to select from A4 through L10. I'm going to hold my Shift key down. I'm going to arrow over to L, and I'm going to arrow down to 10. So I have A4 through L10 selected. And then they want us to use quick analysis, and hopefully what will come up is the little quick analysis icon. If that doesn't come up for you, and I've had some difficulties with that, just put your mouse over the data that you've selected. Oops, do you see it come up there? Is that my quick analysis? Yeah, it finally came up. But I could click on that. That's what they want us to do. They want us to click on that quick analysis, and you can do that. But just in case, if you hover your mouse over this data and right click, you will often find under your menu options quick analysis. So just in case, that's a little option for you. And they want me to go to chart, and they want, you see the second one, clustered column. Oops, and there it is. And I accidentally clicked onto my spreadsheet, and they didn't want that. They want us to keep this chart selected. Now, what is selected will be affected. And so as we work with charts, I want you to really pay attention to something. This is going to keep you safe. Do you see these dots? These are sizing handles. If I put my mouse over those dots, it would allow me to stretch it, right? Now, I'm not trying to stretch it right now. I just want you to see the dots, because one very significant thing about these dots is they tell me that this object is selected, and what is selected will be affected. Now, here's why this is important. Do you see chart title right here? I'm going to click on that. What just happened? The chart itself is an object, but everything inside of the chart is also an object. So when I clicked chart title, I see that it now has dots. That means that my chart is no longer selected, but the chart title within the chart is selected. So what is selected will be affected. I have to be very careful. If you find that you have accidentally clicked on something, I click on these numbers, see how it selected those? I clicked on this, the legend, see how it selected those? I click on my data. Did you notice that it's selecting very specific bars? And what is selected will be affected. And sometimes you can kind of get into this bind where you're like, I don't want that selected. I just need the chart selected. How do you fix this? the tip that will save you is to click away somewhere. When I say that, I mean not in your data, just click. Just click on the chart. Do you see how the chart is not selected now? That's very important. If I want to select the chart, what I would try to do is stay away from objects in the chart unless I'm really trying to select one of those. So see how there's like a little blank spot here and a little blank spot? I would target those blank spots so that when I click, see how it even says chart area? Excuse me. When I click, I am now more certain, and I can double check, where do I have dots? Only on this outside. Okay, so I know that the chart is selected, and that's where I want to be, because they want me to cut this chart and paste it into cell A15. Well, you know how to cut and paste. There's keyboard commands. You can use those. So that you can see it on the screen, I'm going to click Cut. They ask me to click on cell A15 and paste. And my chart moved over there. Now, you see this line that appears to be running through it. This is from freezing this first column. And so there's a line there. And our chart is kind of looks funny. It looks like it's collapsing, doesn't it? And that's because I'm scrolling across, but that first column is frozen. That could be a little confusing to you, so I wanted to explain what was happening there. Okay, first instruction looks like it's done. Do you think we should save? I'm proud of that. Let's save. Let's go back to our instructions. Okay, so we did step 2. Let's go on to step 3. You want to customize the column chart with the chart title. Display the years as a data series, enlarge the chart to be easier to read, and apply a chart style. Whoa! Okay, here we go. We want to customize the chart. So it says that we are supposed to type passengers by top U.S. airports as the chart title. Now, because you are going to be submitting this into the computer grader, please make sure your capitalization and your punctuation is exactly as they have it there. So let's talk about the chart title. Going back to Excel, here's the chart, and when I click, did you notice how it selected the chart title? Now, excuse me, this is kind of strange for me because in older versions of Excel, what I would do is I would click even again so that my I-beam, see how my I-beam is there? And that would allow me to select inside of the chart. Do you see how that worked? So I'm out here. I don't have anything selected. I click once, I select the chart. I click again, I select the chart title. I click again, and I'm inside. See how I'm drilling down into? Okay, and that's one way to change the chart title. But by going through the simulator, I learned something new. I learned that they don't want to do it that way, so I'm going to click away. I'm going to click the chart title, and I'm going to click the object chart title. Now notice I did not click a third time. So I don't have any I-beam, I just have chart title selected. And I can start typing actually, and the title that they want me to type was passengers. Now look where I'm typing. I'm on the formula bar, and you did this in the simulator, and it's going to go into that chart title. Passengers, I'm sorry, let me find my place, by, so I type it exactly, top U.S. airports. Once I finish that, hit the enter key, and I see my chart title. So kind of cool. I learned something new as I went through the simulator on that. Next, they want me to swap the data on the category axis and in the legend. So this is my category axis down here, right? And when I have this chart selected, do you see that across the top I have this extra toolbar, charts? If I click off the chart, it goes away. It's only there when I need it, and I only need it if I click on the chart. Well, with the chart selected, when I click on Chart Tools, and then I'm on Chart Tools and in the Design tab, I see that I have this switch row and column. So I'm going to click that. And what did it do down here? Well, a minute ago, and I'm going to undo so you can see that again. A minute ago I had years and then airports. But when I clicked switch the row and column, it moved my years down here, and now my airlines are up here. So I'm seeing these groupings are years, and it's showing, or I'm sorry, are airports, and it's showing me all the years in there. Okay, well, we're not done yet. With the chart still selected, it wants me to set the height and width. So I've got my chart tools, but this is not on the design tab, this is on the format tab. And over here, it wants me to enter 3.5, enter. And let's see, for the width 11.4, enter. Ah, so much nicer to read, so much nicer. If you find that you make a mistake, the Control-Z command is very helpful. On your keyboard, when you press Control-Z, that's undo. So if undo is what I'm saying is very helpful. Also, if you've saved after each step, then if you feel like you've messed something up, just close without saving, open the worksheet again so that you can get back on path. Okay? And then the final part of task number 3 is that we're going to apply the Style 7 chart style. So they're really making sure that I understand that when the chart is selected and I look at my ribbon up here, that I've got multiple tabs like Format and Design. And Design is where my chart styles are. And if you remember, you've got this down arrow here. And let's see, they want number 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to hover my mouse over it. I've not clicked, I'm hovering. And notice the tooltip, Style 7. Click to apply. So there we go. Now, if you remember the picture that we looked at in the beginning, it doesn't look like that yet, but we're not done. I do feel like we've completed these steps successfully, so I'm going to save. And let's go back. Okay, that was a very big step 3, but I think we've done each one of those steps. Let's continue. The value axis takes up a lot of space for the numbers. You will adjust the value axis to simplify it. We're going to change the display units to millions for the value axis. And we're going to edit the axis title to display millions of passengers. Okay, so we've got to change the display units to millions and edit the title to millions of passengers. So let's go back to Excel. When we're talking about the value axis, and this is going to be important to remember, we're talking about this vertical value axis. So let's select that. Remember that what is selected will be affected, right? Now, what I like to do, I'm a big fan of right-clicking because it just takes me to the menu that is appropriate for whatever I have right-clicked upon. So when I right-click on the object, I want to make sure I don't select more deeply into the numbers. So I'm going to put my mouse over that edge. Do you see that edge, the border that goes around? Maybe I can do it down here. Is that too low down? Let me scroll that up. See how my mouse is right over that? And holding my hand very still on that, I'm going to right click. Oh, see, I missed it. Okay, that's okay. Select again. Right click. And I'm going to go to Format Chart Area. Maybe we could have moved up here and format the selection. We're trying, in fact, should I do it that way? Let me do it that way with you. I love to right click, but it is very tricky. If I'm going to remember our goal here is to affect this value axis. And so when I'm clicking here, you know, I've selected the value axis, but up here in my chart tools, when I change back to the Format tab, boy, we've gone back and forth, haven't we? Design, Format, Design, Format. Well, maybe if it's not on one of those, it's on the other. right? So rather than trying to stress out, I'll never remember what's on the Format tab, I'll never remember, don't get caught up in that. If it's not on Design, let me look over here on Format, see if I can find it, okay? And in this area, notice this is the current selection area. This is very helpful. You've got a drop-down box here, and it even tells me, you know, in fact, it's a different way to select. If I click Legend, it's going to select the legend. See how I didn't click that. It just selected that. So this is another way of selecting. And what we're focused on is the vertical value axis. And so that's it right there. And we need to change the display units. Well, it tells me this is the axis option, and I have these different symbols, and each of these symbols is going to give me some additional things. This bucket allows me to adjust the fill and the outline, but I need this graph, this axis options, that icon. Click on that, and I think it's under axis options, and yeah, okay, and we need to display the units in millions. So if I scroll down, display units. Now, I found this in the simulator hard to put into context because I couldn't see the whole window, but hopefully this video is helping with that. Display units. I'm going to choose millions. Got it? All right, we're not done yet. Edit the axis title to display millions of passengers. Well, here's what just happened. When we change this to millions, it removed all those excessive zeros. It was so hard to see a minute ago because 120 million, I mean, that's 000, 000, right? That's a lot of zeros. And so it's letting the reader of the graph know that because here it put the word millions. I'm going to click on that word millions, and it says edit the axis title to display millions of passengers. Well, is that the axis title? And I like to just double check because they can get kind of persnickety there. Okay, it currently says millions. I've got it selected. I'm just going to start typing millions of passengers. Enter. And it updated that just like we did with the chart title a moment ago. We selected the object, we started typing, it entered it up here on the formula bar, we hit enter, and it updated the display. I'm going to save that. Let's go back to our instructions. Moving along, we're on step 5. You want to focus on the 2016 data series by adding data labels. Display data labels above the columns for the 2016 data series only. Alrighty, we can do that. Let's go back to Excel. And we are interested in the 2016 data series, and I can see in my legend that that is this navy blue. That is this navy blue, and that happens to be the very last column. So if you will click just that one column, do you see the dots? And they're on each navy blue column, right? Okay. Well, that means that all the data, all the 2016 data is selected. And I'm going to close this panel over here just because it's in my way. And see this plus sign? If you click on plus sign, then you can see, and I'm sorry, let me just make sure, data labels. Here's data labels, and I can certainly check that. They do want to make sure that we put those data labels above, and that is where they are displaying. You have an arrow right here that gives you, and you might have to go to more options, but mine are already displaying above. I'm just going to check that. And do you see now what I would normally have to do is I would have to say, okay, here's the top of the bar, it's not quite to this line, it's a smidge lower, and I would go across and I would say, well, it's a smidge less than 60. It's not quite 60. But now I can say, oh, it's 59. There were 59 passengers. not less than 60, but instead very precisely. But imagine if we had those numbers above every single bar. It would be very cluttered. And, do we really care in 2007? I mean, maybe we do, okay? But that's a lot of numbers. If we're really focused on crowding the graph, if we're really focused on the year 2016, then let's just display them for there. If they need those numbers, they can always go back up here to our data table, right? Okay. All right, I'm done with this little, we click the plus sign, so you might have to click the plus sign again. Might click off someplace just to deselect, just to get rid of anything that is selected. And then click the graph again, the chart, so that I know that I'm working on it. All right, where are we at? I think we just finished step number 5. Now we want to apply a fill color to the chart area that will make the chart visually appealing. Okay. Specifically, what do we want to do? We want to apply the light gradient accent to preset gradient fill to the chart area. That's what I'm taking out of this. I'm taking out of this that we need to apply some kind of fill to the chart area. And then we're going to have to remember or look at our directions. So let's go back to the chart. And they are talking about the chart area. And as I hover, do you see that my mouse is telling me this is the chart area? It's also, I can double check that by looking up here. We have to be careful that we don't click here, because notice this is the plot area. And this is nicely formatted for us right now, but sometimes that's also in the same color. So if it's like white on white, we can't really see. So those tips are very important. Things like the fact that it's telling us plot area, and then once we select something, that it will tell us up here as well. Okay, but I want the plot area. Now with my mouse on the plot area, on the chart area, right click and format chart area, right? Because now I need this back. And they're talking about filling. Okay, so that's this bucket. Think about the bucket gets knocked over to spill all the paint in this. So in order to adjust that, click the little triangle there. And they talked about gradient. Look here, there's gradient. Now, it said something about gradient 2, light gradient accent 2. Well, I see some presets here. Gradient, by the way, means it's not solid. It goes from lighter to darker or darker to lighter. And you can see there's a ton of settings, but rather than get into all that, they're telling me to use this preset. And light gradient accent 2. So 2 typically means the second one, right? So 1, 2. And sure enough, when I hover my mouse, light gradient accent 2. Click. Excellent. Now, as I look at that, I'm a little nervous because it's getting closer to what the picture looked like. It's not fully there yet, but that's okay because we're not done. I do think we've done something good, so I'm going to save my work. Let's go back to the instructions. Number 6. Look, we're almost to the end of the first page, so we're doing good. Number 6. Applying a fill color to the chart area will make the chart more... Oh, we just did that. I'm sorry. We're done with number 6. Moving on to number 7. A best practice is to add alt text. I wonder if you've ever heard of this prior to this chapter, to a chart for accessibility compliance. And this is specifically the text that we're going to add. We need to be very, very careful and type it, exactly the way that they are telling us, capitalization, spacing. Everything has to be just right. Now, here's what alt text is all about. How you know what, have you ever somebody emails you something on your phone and it's a picture and it's so small you can't see it, and maybe it's some kind of PDF file and you're trying to read it but you're having to open it and then scroll, move with your finger to move across. Oh, and it's just impossible. Or what if you were driving or running or exercising something and you were trying to listen to the text reader as your phone is reading, like your emails, or it reads your text messages, but they sent you a picture and so nothing comes through, right? Because it was a picture. Well, wouldn't you instead like like your phone to be able to tell you what that picture says. Now imagine that you are visually impaired and you can't look at that picture. That's not an option. You need something to be written so that the screen reader can announce it to you. That's what alternate text is. Alt text is alternate text. It is alt text. It means what's in the picture. Okay, with all that said, remember we have this chart. We right-clicked. That brought us to this format area. We've already done our preset here to our gradients, and we've got these other weird symbols. Well, it looks like this icon means effects, and this last icon says something about size and property. So let's click on that. When I click on that, I'm going to see that I have this alt text. I'm not going to worry about a title. I'm going to go to the description, and I am referencing the notes that I printed, and it says that I should type the chart displays the number of passengers in millions for the top 6 airports from 2006 to 2016. Make sure you type the period at the end. Look good? Double check, make sure you've got your capitalization, punctuation, that everything is just right. Man, we're looking good. We're looking good. I'm going to close this just to get it out of the way. I think I've done something good. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back to my instructions. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so we're here. Now we're on to step 8. When you change the workbook theme, Excel applies that theme to the chart styles. Change the workbook theme to slice. I remember. Slice was one of the files that we downloaded. It was a theme. So now is our chance to apply this theme. Cool. Let's go back to airport. Now, as I'm got my chart selected, everything that Excel is presenting me with has to do with charting. In fact, like if I try to go to Formula tab, see how it's all grayed out? Because Excel is like, when you're trying to do a chart, you're not trying to do a formula, so I'm not going to let you get into that stuff, right? If, however, I click off somewhere, I click into the chart, it's the table itself. Notice my dots are gone. Notice that table is, or that chart is not selected. Look how everything came back, because it says, formula is what we do in a cell, right? Well, I say that to say, when I have my chart selected, it might be kind of difficult for me to find where can I apply that theme, or worse yet, the theme might end up applying only to my table. And I don't want to do that. This is a kind of grand theme, so just click off someplace. Go to your page layout, go to themes. Now, I kind of was looking to see if I already had slice. I see that I do. I don't think everybody would. It may depend if you've already imported it or used it once before. If you have it, you certainly can use it. But just kind of for the sake of our class, I'm going to go down here where it says Browse for Themes, because I want to make sure I use their slice theme. And let me navigate for a moment. I know that I saved, in my Excel 3 folder, all my files. So I see slice, and I'm going to open. This is starting to look a little bit more like the picture. I'm just reducing it. Remember the picture and it had this real pink? How about that? How about that? I just scrolled up a little bit because this is frozen, right? Column A is frozen and my rows are frozen. So as I'm scrolling, it's keeping those in place. Hey, we're doing pretty good. We applied that theme. Let's click on Save. Alrighty, let's keep going here. Last step on this page, you want to create a bar chart to display passenger counts for only 1 year. So here's what they want us to do. Create a recommended clustered bar chart for these ranges. Now this is weird, right? Because they're not touching each other. A is way over on the left, L is way over on the right. How are we going to select all that? And move the chart to a new chart named bar chart. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's go back to Excel. And first they said they want us to select A5 through A10. Well, remember I told you that for this demonstration, I'm going to click A5, moving my mouse away. I'm going to hold my Shift key down, and with my Shift key held down, arrow, 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 arrow. And I have selected A5 through A10. Now let up. So from your keyboard. Nothing is held down on your keyboard at this moment. But I also need to select cells L, see L way over here, L5 through L10. So I am going to use my mouse. I'm going to hold the control key down. CTRL is the control key. Keep it pressed down, and while you have it pressed down, you're just going to drag. It's a smooth motion. When I say click, press mouse button down, drag. Now, if you are asking right now, which mouse button, I'm going to tell you the answer. And it's always the answer. Didn't your teachers always tell you never say always, never say never? Well, that's not true. When people say click the mouse button, it's always the left mouse button. It's that default mouse button, always. You know what, unless you've switched your mouse keys around because you're left-handed or something like that. But for our purposes, we're going to say always. The right mouse button always produces a menu of whatever you have right-clicked upon. So the commands are click, that means left. It always means left. Now, if you are moving your pointer finger from side to side on your mouse, I want you to stop it, because you're going to have nothing but heartache from doing that. Your pointer finger goes on top of the left mouse button. It is always over the left mouse button. You don't ever have to look at it because it's always there. Your third finger always stays on top of the right mouse button. Don't move it around. You don't need to look at it because it's always in position on that right mouse button. This is critical. This is critical to improve your computer skills. If you're constantly switching that finger back and forth or using different fingers, you're going to constantly make mistakes, and I'll tell you why. Because you're taking your eyes off the screen and you're looking at your mouse, and as you're doing that and touching the mouse and moving the mouse, that's the problem. You're moving the mouse and you're clicking things. If you don't ever have to, why do you need to look at it if you know where your fingers are? So that enables you, that frees you to be able to look at the spreadsheet. That is a tip for success. Shh, don't tell anybody. It's just for us. We're the only ones. Okay, so what did I do? Let's do that again. I clicked, and because I was using my Shift key for demonstrations, I used my arrow, right? And I said Shift and selected all those cells. Then I let up off my keyboard. I moved my mouse over into position. I've got my fingers where I know they need to be. I'm holding the control key down, press and drag. And then let up off everything. And it's selected. Good for you! Yay, you! All right, now what are we doing? We're on this last step. It says create a recommended clustered bar. So where do I create graphs? I go to Insert, and on the Insert tab, there's this gigantic button. It says Recommended. So I think I'm going to do that. It says Recommended, and it's got some different graphs here that it's recommending. But this very first one, which is selected right now, is displayed over here. And it describes it as a clustered bar, and in my instructions that's exactly what I need. Clustered bar. Boop, so I'm going to double click that. There's my clustered bar. Kind of sitting out there floating on top of everything, but no worries, because they are telling us they want us to move it to its own sheet. When they say sheet, they mean like its own little tab down here at the bottom. And the way I do that is I'm on Chart Tools, I'm on Design, and I'm just going to click on this button here, Move Chart. And it says, do you want it to be an object? And that's what it is now. It's an object that's floating. It's an unidentified floating chart object, right? No, I want it to be a new sheet. So click New Sheet. And over here, what do we say? We're going to call it Bar Chart. Click OK. How about that? Look at, there it is. How did you do that? You are so clever. This is cool. We did something good. Let's save. And guess what? We get to advance to page 2. Woohoo! Step 10. All right. We want to customize this bar chart. You knew we weren't going to just leave it like that. We're going to customize that bar chart. We're going to change the color to the colorful palette 3. Well, let's just do one thing at a time. I'm still on Chart Tools, Design, and on this Design tab I see colors over here. And notice that there's colorful and there's monochromatic. Well, they wanted colorful and they wanted colorful palette 3. So 1, 2, 3. Here it is right there. Click that. And my bars turned kind of purpley. Alrighty, let's keep moving on. It said enter a chart title. So I'm going to select the chart title. Only one time, got the dots. There's no flashing cursor. There's no insertion point. If you mess up, click away someplace. See how that clears it? Click the chart and then click the title. Look at your dots. Your dots will help you stay balanced in terms of what is selected. Okay, I've got that selected. I'm going to start typing. I'm supposed to type passengers at top. They capitalize the T at top 6 U.S. airports in 2016. Whenever I'm finished, I press enter. There it is, looking good. All right, let's keep going. Apply the Style 5 chart style. Well, I'm still in Chart Tools, still on Design. Here's my chart styles. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's hover over it. Sure enough, I've got a little tooltip that's displaying that says Style 5. Do you see that down there? Style 5. Click. Ah, starting to look nice. Let me save. Not done yet, but save. We need to add another alt text, so somebody who is looking at this on a, or I say looking, who has a mobile device that's doing screen reading to us will get some kind of message, or if they have a visual impairment, they'll get some kind of message. So how do I do that? Well, I'm up here. I'm going to, in a vacant area, that's the significance. I'm in kind of this free area, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to format chart area. Do you remember? Do you remember the symbol? This one was effects. This one, size and properties. And under that, I have this option for alt text. And in the description, I'm going to go ahead and fill that out. Oops, my mouse is sliding around on me. I'm sorry. In the description, it says I need to type the bar chart. Chart shows passengers at top 6 U.S. airports in 2016. Atlanta, I like this extra detail. Atlanta had the most passengers, period. Nice little piece of information. So that's it. It's in there. I'm going to click on save. And I can even close that, and you don't even see that alternate text. That's just something that if somebody was using a screen reader, for example, that it would use. There we go. So we just completed step 10. Let's move on to step 11. Modifying the axes will improve readability of the bar chart. So we want to change the font size to 10 for the category as well as the value axis. And then we want to change the value axis to have a maximum bound so it doesn't go over this 1.1 e to the 8. And e means exponent and 8 means 0. So it's like 1.1 times 10 to the 8th power. Here's the easy thing that this means. It means move the decimal over 8 times. That's what that means. Okay, so this is actually a number. If that looks kind of strange to you, that is actually a number. So let's start with the font size, 10 for both axes. So let's go back. Here is my axis here, and I like to see what I have selected. See that vertical axis there? And typically my on the Home tab is where I see my fonts. So I'm going to change that to 10. Go ahead and save. I save whenever I do something correct. And down here at the bottom, that's especially true with charts. And down at the bottom, you see my axis down here. Let's change that to 10 and save. Okay, now what was the second part of that? Change the value axis to a maximum of 1.1E8. Okay, well, we know this is, this time not the value axis, because here are our values down here. So I have that selected already, and I can always double check that horizontal value axis. And what I want is the properties for that. So I'm going to try, let me see if I can be good enough to hover over that. See how my mouse pointer is pointing at it? And then I'm going to right click so that I can format the axis. I did well that time. If you have trouble getting this panel to come up, format axis, then what you may have to do is put your mouse in a kind of a free area and right click and format chart area. Okay, and then change your selection up here to make sure that you get, now you're going to want to make sure, see I said horizontal value axis, and I'm verifying down here at the bottom that it's got the correct thing selected. If I saw something, wacky out here selected, I got the wrong thing. So now format axis, and oh, I forgot what we were doing. Okay, and I need to set a boundary, and whenever I need to set a boundary on the axis, I'm looking for this little chart icon, this bar. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to then go to axis options, and they wanted a maximum, I'm going to delete that, of 1.1E8, and I'm going to hit enter. And did you see that? It just made this look to me a little bit nicer down here. Save that. All right, look at us. We're just moving right along. Goodness, excellent. Okay, number 12, you will format a data point so that it stands out, and then add grid lines to enhance readability in the bar chart. Okay, so format the Atlanta data point with a dark blue text to fill color. Okay, let's go back to our chart. Here's Atlanta. So when they talk about a data point, they mean Atlanta. That's the data point. Now, I just clicked one time. Did I select Atlanta? I don't think so. Look at my dots. I selected Atlanta. Trick question maybe. I selected Atlanta, but I also selected way too much additional stuff. Well, I need to click again on Atlanta. Okay, so here's what happened. I'm going to click away to let you see. See how my dots are gone? The first click selects the chart. The second click selected all the data. The third click drilled down to Atlanta. Those little dots are so important. They keep you on track as to what you actually have selected. Now, they wanted me to, color that with a dark blue. Was that the correct? Oh, dark blue text 2. I think they are just meaning the dark blue. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that. I picked dark blue. Let's see, if we get this wrong, you can blame me. Okay, click on save. So, formatted Atlanta with dark blue. Okay, and then we're going to add primary minor vertical grid lines. Okay, well, let's go back over it. Primary minor vertical grid lines. Okay, so So this is one of those things I don't do all the time, so let's think about this for a minute. I'm in my chart. They want me to add minor grid lines. So let's see, design. Okay, there we go. Chart tools, design. Let's go to add chart element. They said grid lines. Here we are, grid lines. And they wanted, I'm sorry, let me double check. They wanted minor vertical. Minor vertical. There we go. I don't know if you can see those. They're very light, but I have major grid lines. That's these kind of thicker ones. Those are grid lines you would see like 10, 20, 30, but then the minor ones might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see what I'm saying? So they're minor in the sense that they show the smaller numbers. Okay, I just zoomed in trying to show you, but I don't think that helped too much. Okay, so we've added that. Let's save. And we've completed step 12. Let's go on to 13. A line chart effectively shows trends over time for the passenger counts at the different airports. So create a line chart using the range A4 through L10 in the passenger worksheet and move the chart to a chart named line chart, and then we're going to add some stuff. Okay, lots of stuff going on. We're going to create a line chart on A4 through L10 in the passenger worksheet. So let's do that. Passenger worksheet. Look, there was our last one. Let's just click to stop that selection. I'm going to click in, they said A4. So what they said A4. And I'm going to hold my shift key down. And I'm going to go across. I'm arrowing with my shift key held down. And then I'm going to over to L, they said, and then go down until I get to 10. I'm keeping my shift key as held down. Now I'm releasing the shift key. So I have that selected, and they wanted me to add a line chart. So in order to do a chart, I go to Insert, and this one looks like lines. See that one? Insert a line chart. And they didn't really tell me what kind. I don't think so. I'm going to just do this basic one. Yeah. And it's kind of sitting on top of all of our stuff, but it is selected, and they immediately want me to move it. And on the Design tab, Move. Remember that right now it's an object. We want to put it on a new sheet, and they want us to call that new sheet Line Chart. So nothing too exciting there. Line Chart. And it's going to become a new tab down here. There it is. Okay, now let's see. They also want us to add a chart title. I'm just looking to make sure I didn't skip anything. Move the chart, name it, add a chart title. So I need to click chart title, and then I'm just going to start typing, and they want us to call this Passengers at U.S. Airports. Make sure I don't have typos. 2006, 2016. There were no spaces there, right? I'm going to hit enter. That is still selected, and they want me to bold it. So since it is selected, it will be affected. Looking good. Looking good. Got some, I mean, this is some work, isn't it? Goodness, but it looks so good. You're going to be so impressive to your bosses when you show them this. Okay, so let's move on. Step 14, this is a biggie here. You want to customize that line chart. So we want to set the minimum bound for the value axis. The max, oh, that's minimum. And the maximum bound should change to that automatically. Okay, so let's start with that. Here's our value axis. It's got all these values on it, so let's select that. When we select that, this panel changes because it's context sensitive. Whenever we're affecting these axes, we're looking for this icon here. We go to Axis Options, and they asked us this time to work with the minimum. It's been the maximum the last couple times. And the minimum should be 4.0 e, meaning exponent, to the 7. So that means move the decimal to the right 7 times. Hit enter. And before I do, look at the values. See all those zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Goodness, that's a lot of zeros. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me undo and redo. See the bottom? See how I have all this? I'm used to maximum. I'm sorry, I started telling you the wrong thing. See how at the bottom a lot of the graph is wasted because we're not even using that? That's the whole reason they asked us to put that minimum in. So once I put my minimum value in, I'm going to redo. See how it got rid of that wasted space and it made our axis start at this 40 million? So it just makes it easier. It separates all the data out because it uses the space more wisely. All right, what else did they want us to do? Set the vertical axis display units to millions. That's what I was in my head talking about a minute ago. So we're still on this vertical axis. We just set the minimum. Still in that panel down here, we need to change it to millions. Now is what I was talking about. Watch those zeros. Watch those zeros go away. Millions. See how much easier that is to look at? Oh, it's so much nicer. And we're using our space correctly. Now, we're not done yet because it said display it in millions, then delete that label. Delete the unit label from that upper left corner and add a value axis in millions. Scary stuff. Well, here's that word millions. That's a label. I clicked on it. I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. It's gone. And whenever I want to add an object, if I go to chart and then design, add elements, and they wanted me to add, let me make sure I read that correctly, they want me to add a value axis. So I'm going to add a axis title, and that's going to be my vertical. I'm just looking at this just to make sure. Axis title, vertical. So it's just a slightly different item. There's nothing wrong with typing into that millions that was there, but they just wanted me to add this as a separate item, so we did that. And they wanted me to say what, add an axis value title in millions, and that updated that. I think they're just demonstrating techniques, so I'm saving that. Just demonstrating a bunch of techniques. Change the font size to 10 for the value axis and category axis. So let's make sure that this is selected. On my home tab I can find things. Even though it says 10, I don't trust it. I want to make sure the grader gives me points, so I click 10. And let's see, how about this? Is this 10? And how about this? Oh, that's 9. Let's make sure everything is in 10, because it wants me to have these in a 10-point font. So I did that kind of quick, but rewind the video. It's selecting. If you have difficulty selecting it, then go to the formatting tabs and you'll be able to select them by picking them from the list. And then you could just make sure they're at 10-point font. Okay? All right, where are we at? Move the legend to the top. Alrighty. Well, let's see. Let's do that. I'm in Chart Tools. I'm going to go to Format, and I'm going to change this to Legend. Or I could click on the legend. And see how, this is context sensitive. It's changing. The options are changing based on what I have selected. So I want this to be at the top. Save. If I click something else, this panel will change because it's context sensitive. Filter the chart by deselecting the odd number years. Now, let's think about that. We're working with our data. So I'm in Chart Tools, go to Design, and remember earlier when we switched rows and columns? Well, right there next to it is Select Data. And it's telling me everything that's selected. And I can uncheck the odd numbers. Let me move this up so you can see. Okay. And it's just making our graph a little cleaner. Because these are trends, so I can infer between points. Like when I look at these two graph lines, I see that this one was trending up, and what is that? It's Denver. See how I hovered over and it told me that was Denver? And it's showing me that Denver is going along, and then all of a sudden it kind of follows this red line. That's New York. It looks like JFK. So all of a sudden JFK and Denver, it looks like all the way through 2014 that they're the same. Maybe around about 2015, which is no longer part of my data map, but I can infer. They're the same until about that year, and then they split. So by 2016, they're separate, right? So I can kind of infer that. So I didn't need those extra data points. Let's keep on moving forward. Let's see. Lost my place. Move the legend, filter the odd number, add the alt text. Okay. All right, so how do we do alt text? Well, we need to select the chart area. So I just clicked right out here where it says chart area. My panel is already open, and it remembered last time I was here, remember we went to this size and properties, and if you don't see it, then you just have to remember to expand that. And we're going to click right there, and it says to type the line chart displays trends for top 6 U.S. airports from 2006 to 2016 at 2-year intervals. Don't forget the period at the end. Hey! Are you tired? If you need to pause the video, you can always pause and come back, walk it off. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Look how much you've done. Take a minute, pat yourself on the back. You've done a bar chart, you've made a line chart, you've moved these to separate pages. I mean, you are really, goodness, lots of stuff going on here, right? You've added a theme, you've added numbers up here. Golly, look at all this stuff that you have done. You have really been working hard. Sorry, my clock just fell off the wall and it scared me half to death. So this is live. This video is live. We're not editing that out. We're just going to keep going forward. All right. It actually released some stress because this is a lot of work, right? So it's like a scary movie there. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, spark lines. I wonder if you'd ever heard of these before. These are so cool. You're going to like these. Spark lines provide a quick visualization. That's what this chapter is about, is visualizing the data to represent in the worksheet. So we're going to display spark lines for the passenger worksheet, M5 through M10, to illustrate B5 through L10. A lot of B's and A, B, C, D, L, M, N, O, P. Okay, let's go to Excel. It said go to the passenger worksheet. Well, we can kind of deduce that something is going to go here, right? Now, there are many different ways to do this. I do it slightly differently than your book does, and I thought I'll go ahead and show them that. I'm going to start by selecting. So, I can drag, I can click, hold my shift key down, and arrow if I want, because this is the destination. This is where these spark lines are going to go. And whenever I do any kind of graph, I always insert it. And it's not, I say graph, it's not a chart. They're in a separate category over here, spark lines. And we're actually doing a line, so I'm going to click that. Now this dialog box comes up and says, well, okay, I'm going to put them in that location that you specified, but what exactly am I supposed to graph? And Now see, look at this. I got to be careful because this is C. So I need to use my scroll bar down here. I'm going to click in B because we're supposed to start in B5, and I'm going to hold my Shift key down, and I'm going to go over to L. I'm going to the right, Shift, keeping Shift held down, arrowing to the right, keeping Shift held down, down arrow, and now I have that selected. Or I could just type it. I could just type it, couldn't I? I could just type right here, B5 colon, that's the 2 dots, L10. Click OK. Look at that. So now I kind of see in broad strokes what this data is doing. Is it generally going up? Is it going down? What's going on with it? Is it, up and down? And I still have that selected because I think I still have a little bit of work to do. Now I want to customize those spark lines by pointing out the high points and the low points. So at a glance, I want somebody to be able to see what is the highest and what is the lowest point. And I've still got those selected. Spark line now, not chart, but spark line is this upper toolbar, designs, high point, low point. And you see even in the samples how it's doing that, and this might be too small in the video for you to see, but can you see the little red dots that it's added? Little red dots on there. Okay. Apply black text color to the high point marker in the spark line. So not the low point, but just the high point. I'm going to make that black. So I've still got these selected. I'm going to come up here. I'm still on Sparkline Tool and Design, Marker Color, High Point, and there's black. I'm hovering it over it so it can tell me, but that is black. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that while it's selected, but the low point is red and the high point is black. Very cool. Save. All right, moving right along. We're almost to the end of page 2, and we know we have just a little bit after that, but not much at all. On the questions worksheet, type the answer to the first question in cell A2. Enter only the airport code. Then answer the questions by typing in each of the other cells, A3, A4, A5, and A6. Okay, I'm not going to give you the answers to these, but here's what they're talking about. In questions, the questions tab down at the bottom, they're asking me some questions. Which airport had the most passengers for all years 2006 to 2016? Use the airport code to answer. Well, oops, let me make sure I show the whole graph. Let me close this. Which airport, these are the airports, and notice the airport code. That's the only thing they're looking for. ATL is for Atlanta, ORD is for Chicago here, LAX for Los Angeles, DFW is for Dallas-Fort Worth. So that's the codes they're looking for. Well, one of these had the most passengers. And do you see how our graph might make that very easy to very quickly identify that one of these airports has many more passengers than the others? So whatever that code is, you would type it in cell A2. I'm not going to give you that answer, but you can do that. Similarly, you would answer these other questions. How many airports had fewer passengers in 2008 compared to 2007? Enter a value such as 1. And so it says how many. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many airports had fewer passengers? There was a decline. Well, my bar chart here, I don't think I can get that from that. My line chart. Now they were specifically looking from what, 2008 to 7, so had fewer in 8. Was there a drop as we went from 7 to 8? Well, do you think this graph would help? Would this one help? I'm going to let you decide which graph is most helpful. and then however many airports you think, type that number. What year did the JFK airport, and remember, remember our codes here. See this code JFK, DEN, and you see that on the different on each graph. See how it's telling you the code? Here it is again. So I'm sorry, it says, what year did JFK start having more passengers than DEN? Well, was there a year where one surpassed the other, where one was more? Now you need to be able to see the years. Okay. What year did LAX start having more passengers than ORD? So it's another of that type of question. And then finally, what airport had the second highest number of passengers in 2016? Not the most, but the second most. And they want you to enter only that code, such as JFK, such as LAX, or DEN, or that kind of thing. Just put the 3-digit code. All right, I'm not going to answer those for you. I'm going to let you do those. Let's continue on. Group the bar chart and the line chart sheets and insert a footer with the exploring series on the left side and the sheet name code in the center and the file name code on the right. Okay, so they said group the bar chart and line chart sheets. So what are we talking about? Well, we click bar chart. You can hold, for example, your control key down, and line chart, right? Didn't they say, yeah, bar chart and line chart. Since these are together, you could have also used shift, but since we're being very precise, I decided to use control. And we're going to work on the footer. Well, I need to go into the footer, so how about if I go to page layout, easy way to get into the footer is to click on page setup. And this is, you always have to be on the lookout for the multiple tabs. Header, footer. This is a custom footer, so I need to, it's not one of these pre-established ones, so click on custom footer. And on the left section, exploring series. In the middle section, worksheet. See this button? And in the right section, the file name. It may look a little jumbled there in this preview, but that's because it's so small. You can always print preview if you need to. I'm going to click OK. And then they have us continue on to group some of the additional sheets. Well, how do I group and ungroup? To ungroup, you simply can click a tab that is not part of the group. Right? See how it ungrouped? And oh, folks, please, what happens is if you have a bunch of these grouped and you start making changes, it changes them on both worksheets. Or if you have 10 worksheets selected, it changes them on all of them. So very important to ungroup. If you have them all grouped, I'm going to click the first one. I'm going to hold my shift key down and click the last one. See how that picked all of them? Well, then how can I click one to ungroup? Well, what you can do is you can right click and see this menu option, ungroup. Okay, it's next telling me in my instructions to group passenger and questions. So you do this by holding a key down on your keyboard. Click the first one. I'm going to hold control key down and then click the next one. Now that they're grouped, let's repeat that process. I go to page setup. I go to my header footer. This is a custom footer, and they actually had us make it exactly the same. Exploring series. The center, they wanted the worksheet, and on the right, they wanted the file name. Okay. And okay. Folks, make sure you ungroup. Make sure you ungroup. I'm just clicking around to ungroup. How are we doing? How are we doing, folks? You still with me? Almost done. Almost done. We got to set the page formats for the passenger worksheet. Let's go to Excel. Let's make sure we're on the passenger worksheet. On the passenger worksheet, they want us to use legal size paper. Do people still use that? They want us to put it in landscape orientation and to have a 0.3 left and right margin. And then they want us to make sure that everything is scaled to fit on one page. Woo! Lots of steps here. Excel. Let's go to our page setup. They wanted us to set this up for legal, not letter, but legal size paper. What else I'm sorry, I need to look at my instructions because that was kind of a lot. They want us landscape. Let's do landscape. While I'm here, did you notice what else is here? Scaling. Right now, if I print this, it's going to just print at its current size, and if it takes a page in a little bit, that's what it's going to do. But I can tell Excel to adjust it just a little bit. I want it to fit on one page by one page. This is one of the greatest features you will ever use. When you have that spreadsheet that is just a little too big and it's overlapping on some pages, you can say, Excel, will you force that onto 1 by 2 or 3 by 2, or can you force it onto a set number of pages? Okay, so you can do that with scaling. It's so great. What else was it? Margins. We need to adjust the margins. They want the top margin, no, I'm sorry, left and right margins to be 0.3. Well, I could click, but it's just going to be easier to type. Left, right, so 0.3, 0.3. Okay. Save. Now, I'm going to type my answers in for the questions and so we can submit it, but I'm not going to show you that part, so I'm going to pause here. Okay, so we're back. I've put my answers into the questions and it says that we should go ahead and submit, so I'm going to close even my instructions. And I've already got my grader open and I'm going to upload my file. I'm Betty Baker, my pretend student. Upload, success, and now submit. I wonder if this happens to you as well. Sometimes this little close button doesn't work for me, so I got to do this. And that always means I kind of have to refresh in order to get my grade. And are your nerves just shot at this point? Are you just like, please let me get a perfect score, and you just want it so bad? Let me go back in Excel 3. Oh, I made a 98. Oh no. Okay, that, you know what that means. No, it does not mean that you stop. You go back in and you find out what the error is. Let's see. Did I make a mistake? Oh, you know what? I had problems. Okay, first of all, I love this feedback, and I still am getting emails from people in the class who are saying I'm getting no feedback on my assignments. And if you are not doing this, and I've demonstrated it now in multiple videos, you are really missing out. So I can only keep telling you about it. And of course I'm preaching to the choir, because anybody who's listening to this video, you're already doing this. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to check. I bet I have maybe a typo in my chart title. So I swapped the data categories in the legend. My style, let's look. Let's go back in. We want that 100. We're so close we can taste it. And which one was that on? I'm sorry, I have to go back to my instructions. Type pass. Okay, this was on step 3, and in step 3 we had just created the passenger, right? And we had swapped these. Okay, first of all, let me check, is this the correct passengers by top U.S. airports? Okay, so that looks, I was worried about that. That looks right. What about the size here? What? Okay. Be on the lookout for this, folks, because something that's wacky. 3.5, that size jumped around. I don't remember that. Maybe maybe my hand moved. I don't know, but I don't remember that. 11.4. Okay, so that size must have been off. I'm going to save that. But you know what? That was not bad. That was the only thing. Oh, I could have expanded that. Yeah, the height. Why the height was not set to 3? And I thought we did that. Maybe I messed up. Okay. I don't know. Everything else looks good, so I don't have anything else to fix. Let's go back to course materials. Let's submit this one more time. Here we go. Excel 3. We want that 100. We want that 100. Choose file. Are you drum roll? Drum roll. Upload. Wait for success. Success. Submit. Fingers crossed. Close assignment. It worked for me that time. That always means it's going to refresh my page. Look at there. Yay! Congratulations to us, folks. Congratulations. We did it. We did it together. And I hope this was helpful to you. Don't forget what we talked about at the beginning of this. Start with the quiz, then do the simulator. You're going to learn a lot from this. Use those learning aids. I put learn aids. That should be learning aids. Complete the grader. And then don't be afraid to go back and look stuff up in the book. Okay, I know, when I don't do this stuff all the time, I have to go back and refresh my memory. So I certainly expect that if you are new to this, that it is not just coming boom, boom, boom. But I do hope the video helped. I appreciate you folks so much. You have been such an awesome class. We have more to go. And at the end, when we finish Excel, we're going to get into PowerPoint, which is fun. So if this is tough, hang with me. You're doing great. Thank you, folks.